Welcome in. It's another edition of the On the Mic podcast, and the UFC fights continue to keep on rolling here. And I just spoke to this guy earlier this year. He picked up a win over the Clown Townsend back in February, and he's right back in it. So my guest today is Devin Clark. Devin, how are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Now, all right, we talked in February, and I remember hanging up. I'm like, all right, great. Devin's going to have a good fight. The fight went your way. And you know what? It felt like nothing. You're just business as usual. I'd reach out to you again, your next fight, so on and so forth. And then this pandemic happens. I've talked to a lot of fighters. A lot of fighters have said different things, about the pandemic. But one thing has remained consistent is, look, we're not in the NBA. We're not in the NFL. We have to fight. We have families and ourselves to take care of. So for you, I'll just get right into it. What was it like making the decision to fight during this time? Was it a no-brainer?
Kind of. It wasn't the most comfortable decision. And I was still going to fight May 2nd if they allowed it, because we are fighters and that's our nature. We fight no matter what, in pretty much any situation. We go into scary situations every time we fight. So, and this being a super scary situation with the pandemic, it kind of, is a little different, but we're trained to adjust to that and overcome that. So I think that's where a lot of fighters are coming from. And I think it depends on what state they're in or where they're at in the world, because different places were shut down a lot more than others. In my home state, South Dakota, we didn't shut down quite as bad as places like California and New York, just probably because of the population difference.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes total sense. And you're in Albuquerque now, so I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Now, we talk about, it's a dangerous decision. The pandemic, it's a serious thing. But something on your guys' end, from a fighter's perspective, that's extremely difficult to kind of wrap your head around for most people is, for fans, they're like, great, Devin Clark's fighting again, so on and so forth. You and I are talking on Saturday. It's the same day as Tyron Woodley and Gilbert Burns. Fans are just excited that they're back. Like, they're fighters. They're supposed to fight. How are they supposed to train during this pandemic? That's something I don't think a lot of people take into consideration. So was it difficult to find, methods of training during the pandemic?
A little bit, yeah, quite a bit. When I was back in South Dakota, I was mainly training at home. Me and my daughter, she's 6. So everything I did.
Sparring, right?
We sparred a little bit, actually. But you can get a workout chasing a 6-year-old around, especially when they don't play by the rules. So, but mainly training my strength and conditioning, keeping that up, keeping that good, because going into a fight and at this level, we all know how to fight. And if we go into a fight not as crisp with our skills, we haven't been doing a lot of sparring and stuff like that, and maybe you get some bag work in, but if you're in great shape, you're going to fight. You know how to fight. So being in great shape, I think, was my biggest focus, and being the best athlete I can be, because that's what I would have to depend on if I couldn't get any training. So I was doing a lot of strength and conditioning, and my trainer, has a smaller gym, so he was able to stay open through the whole thing. And so I was there quite a bit, and then also my home workouts. But now I'm here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I have a few partners out from, we're keeping smaller groups and stuff like that. New Mexico was shut down a little more than South Dakota, so it was a little difficult, but we've found ways around it.
What's been the one thing, maybe from a fighter's standpoint or just from a personal standpoint, that you've really taken away from this pandemic?
That fear can control a lot of people, and overcoming that is very important. Staying stress-free, staying positive, working out is huge. I've been working out this whole time, so I've been able to at times I forget that it's even going on, because I'm training, I'm staying healthy, and training and working out will help give you a positive viewpoint on things. If you just busted your ass and worked out hard, you kind of forget everything else that's going on, at least for a brief moment. So it kind of gives you a better outlook on life, whether it's for 15 minutes or an hour or whatever. But if you do that consistently every day, it'll definitely help. So noticing that is key in situations like this, staying stress-free, staying positive, and surrounding yourself with, with positive people in your family. And being home in quarantine, I had no problem in quarantine because I'm at home with my family. It was awesome. So I could stay home, kind of be, stay-at-home dad for a while. And it was great.
Yeah, I hate to talk about something so tragic and really kind of crazy. I think that you know where I'm going with this, but the recent events in Minneapolis this week, we're seeing so many athletes speak out time and time again. And, I feel like I'm going to get a lot of heat for calling out MMA fans, but I feel a lot of them are just so ignorant to the world around them and to the lives that you guys live as professional athletes, professional fighters. And they don't see, they just want to see knockouts. We still have a culture that just wants to see barbaric violence. I know a lot of fighters use their platforms, a lot of athletes use their platforms to carry a higher message than their win-loss record. I'm just kind of wondering what you kind of thought about everything. It's sickening, it's disgusting. Even me, and I'm not a person of color, to see what transpired in Minneapolis. And it's look, I'm from Chicago. I've seen it. I've been there. I've seen it. There's a documentary, 16 Shots, for a reason. I'm just curious your thoughts on everything, and how do you think we can come out of this?
It's really a sad situation. Like the event in itself was a sad deal. Watching murder and that's some of the best video that we've seen on an issue like this. It was really cut and dry, so nobody could really argue whether it was right or wrong or justified or not. Everybody agreed that it was wrong. And then, after that, it kind of, they should have taken him into custody right away. That would have been the best thing. That would have got ahead of the situation. But since they didn't, and, people felt, here we go again. They're letting another cop off the hook that just killed a black man that was, he was detained. They had it under control and they killed him for no reason. And so seeing the cycle continue, it pissed everybody off. White, black, whatever race you are, everybody was pissed about this. And, and everybody reacts to anger differently in situations. As fighters, we're able to control it a lot more because we're fighters. That's what we're trained to do mentally. We know we can't express our anger in violence because we'll go to jail most of the time because we're trained in violence. But not everybody is trained in violence, and so acting out in that violence is second nature to some people, and a lot of people feel like that's their only option right now is for violence. And I don't agree with the looting and the rioting all that much. But I understand though why people would want to burn down a police station. And for me, it's like, oh, okay, they burned down the police station. That's a point there, And but after that, there's gonna be a lot more Black lives, a lot more people dying because of all the rioting and looting, and a lot more action taken by the police. And in this situation, they kind of have to, because we can't burn down our communities. And what's happening, the rioters are burning down the Black community, and it's not helping anybody. So, but I 100% believe in the protesting. We need to be in numbers protesting and letting our voice heard as a whole, Black, white, whatever race you are, because I feel like it's more of there's definitely a racial issue, but a policy issue within police departments all around the country. And there's we need to police our own pretty much. And I feel like that's been overlooked for a long time.
I couldn't agree more. And I promise we're going to get into your fight here in a moment. But, do you see or have any hope and optimism towards us coming together as a society, no matter race, no matter what, as a country? Like we thought, and to be honest, like we talked about COVID just 5 minutes ago. And we thought being in quarantine, we're going to learn a lot of life lessons, and we're going to have so much more, gratitude towards the lives that we have. And then just like the things that happened in January and Jeffrey Epstein, when he was the big topic. COVID came in, took over the world. You knew it was a matter of time before another world event happened and took over coronavirus. We're not talking about coronavirus anymore. So do you feel like at some point we can come together as a country and work together in a society?
Maybe after the election. That's a huge deal to do with a lot of it. As soon as something happens, it's political right away. And it's like, why is that political right away? And we're not caring about actual human lives here. Even with the COVID, it's left versus right, and it's totally backwards. And they're not caring about human life as a whole, as Americans. And it's all about, like I said, a policy deal. You know, they're all trying to have they want their policy, and you know, it's real selfish of our leaders, and that's what we need is good leadership. And I'm surprised, you know, I don't know. I try not to watch the news. I don't watch the news that much because half of it's just bullshit. And it's, you know, I feel like I know common sense, and I can call it when I see it.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's just not. You can tell that it's fabricated. A lot of it's fabricated.
Common sense isn't that common.
No, and you tell there's always something behind it. You know, it's never really caring about what the American population needs and what they want. It's all about policy, and that's the first thing that needs to change is that. And we need good leaders, and we don't really have that right now. The leadership is even with the COVID thing, the leadership wasn't consistent. When Trump would usually stick up for himself and stand up, he didn't. So shut half the country down and didn't handle it. A lot of people just didn't know. They don't know. And keeping us in the dark is what you know, leads to things like this.
Yeah, I agree. And a guy you know very well because he works you know, in your sport, Joe Rogan, he goes, we should not have a popularity contest anymore to decide who runs the country. And I couldn't agree more with that. You know, moving forward, talking about, let's look back at your last fight against Daquan Townsend. And correct me if I'm wrong. You came away. Did you have an injury after that fight? And how was, if you did, how was the recovery process for that?
Yeah, I kind of strained the ligaments in my my foot, but that's about it. And it took probably a month or two to fully heal, I guess. So, but it hasn't slowed me down at all. My trainer back home, Matt Dolan at Fort Strength, he's really good at recovery stuff, and he won't let me sit on the sidelines if I'm injured. We're gonna find a way to work, and we always do. And I always heal so fast after this. Even when I break stuff, break hands, break feet, it doesn't matter. We're gonna get the work in, and that healing time is cut in half at least. So, yeah. So I'm healthy.
Well, you're taking on Alonzo Menifield at UFC 250. Listen, this is a guy, and you face guys coming in with, you know, a good record, good hype behind them. And, you know,
Yeah.
Alonzo's someone has to, at one point in his career, there may be someone who hands him that first loss. And I think a lot of opponents that he'll have, you know, whether it's you or previous or in the future, have that opportunity to hand him that first loss. What is it like, or for you, what is your mindset like taking on a guy like Alonzo Menifield?
Just like the other guys, you know, I've fought guys like this before. The last one, you know, knockout guys, and yeah, hype train, stuff like that. And hype train is kind of a term that, you know, fight fans use, but
yeah,
he has a hype for a reason. He knocks people out, and people love to see that. So I just see it's a good fight for me, and I'm hyped for it. I don't like, I don't fear these guys at all. I love to fight guys like this because they're kind of predictable. You know, I know he's not the most technical fighter. He's got some good striking, and he's going to come in there to take my head off, and I'm all right with that. And I know that I have stuff to counter that, and I can go 15 minutes. I'm not sure if he can go 15 minutes. I also know that I can knock him out, and so I can I know I'm more well-rounded than he is with my wrestling. I have striking skills. I'm a dangerous striker as well. and I just haven't had a knockout yet. But I'm a patient guy, and my skills continue to evolve every fight, and I get more and more comfortable fighting every fight. I'm not really a natural fighter. I don't like violence. I've never been in a street fight, so I'm not really a natural puncher to say. So I've had to work on that, my whole UFC career. I got signed to the UFC when I was after 5 pro fights, so pretty young in my fight career, and I've been learning at the highest level. And I've got a lot of cage time. All my wins are 15-minute decisions, and they're dominant decisions too. I think they're all unanimous. So nothing too close when it comes to 15 minutes. I'm gonna get in there and dominate and do what I do.
What would mean more to you in this fight? Continuing to do what you have done your entire career and time in the UFC, showing your capabilities, going a full 50. Look, everybody wants to finish, but would it be to use your strengths and do what you do, or would it be to get that knockout you're looking for against a guy who, like you said, there's hype behind him for a reason? Are you kind of looking to make a statement in this fight?
Every fight I'm looking to make a statement, and a knockout would be super cool. I want to knock him out. I really do want to knock him out. But what I want more than to knock him out is to totally dominate him and make him look like a fool. And I try to do this every fight. I'm a little more geared towards that this fight. My mind is a little more – I'm a little desensitized right now with everything going on in America and around the world, the COVID, the recent incidents with the cops, stuff like that. But I'm super dangerous right now, and my mind's at a really different place. It's at a dangerous place. So I'm all right with just beating the shit out of him for 15 minutes too.
How can you keep I was going to say, you've got like a calm confidence to you, but now it seems like you got a calm dangerousness to you. Like to hear you just say that, how do you kind of keep it, I don't want to say locked in, and I'm never here to be cliche. I hope every time we talk, you're not like, God, this guy's cliche. But like, it's so, to me, I'm like ready to watch you fight right now, because you're like, look, I'm ready to knock this guy out. I don't care. I'm desensitized. How do you keep that in and then bring it with you UFC 250 that night?
It's something I've done my whole life. As everyone does, I have demons, and at a younger age, probably, teenage years, that started coming out. A little bit of anger issues and stuff that kind of runs in my family, certain stuff like that, pretty much anger issues. But I was able to hold all that in, and it was over the years, it's been expressed through my fighting and through my wrestling, especially when I was younger. But now it's a different time, and it's a dangerous time right now, and I think that's really helped bring that out. And I feel like it's time to show it and just let loose a little bit and be myself and have fun, and be dangerous, be that crazy ass dude that I've tried to hold back for all these years.
Well, that should make fight fans extremely excited for your fight against Alonzo Menifield. Have you thought about and have you kind of looked at the last 3 events that have taken place in the UFC to kind of get a understanding of what it's like? You're fighting it. Listen, you're on pay-per-view, right? You're going to be on the UFC 250 card. It's a big card, but no fans. And I'm sure in your younger career, there wasn't thousands of fans at every fight. So I feel like fighters at some point, they kind of have an understanding of not a lot of people around, but this is different. So have you kind of looked back at some of the events and kind of seen like, oh, I'm going to be able to hear the other corner. I'm going to be able to hear my corner a lot better. I'm going to be able to hear the commentators. Have you thought about all that?
Yeah, I love it. I love the aspect of these fights right now. There's just so much violence. That's the theme of these fights, is there's so much violence. People have had shorter camps, so they're fighting with a lot more passion, a lot more heart, and it's pure violence. And some of the best fights that I've seen in a long time have happened during this whole quarantine period. And I'm super excited about that. I'm super excited. I want the violence. I'm asking for it. And this couldn't be a perfect fight for it. This guy is a very violent guy. He wants to knock my head off. I want to knock his head off. I want to beat the shit out of him. It's a perfect setup for a great night of fights. And the other fights on this card too are very violent as well. A lot of these, and it's a little different for a pay-per-view card. You don't have the big name like the I don't know, you get the Nunez fight, but that's not, you don't have the big draws. You don't have two big names on both sides of the of the corners here. So, but as fight fans and fighters know, all these people on this card are super dangerous and super talented. Yeah, it's gonna be a great night of fights.
Well, with fighters like yourself, and then obviously in the main event, Amanda Nunes, if people aren't getting up for her, I mean, you just don't know what you're watching. Two things I got to ask you. What you just talked about? It'd be dumb of me not to ask this. You just talked about some of your favorite fights. Can you name a couple of them, like fights that recently happened that jump out at you?
Shoot. I don't. I don't know. You can only decide which one. It's like trying to think of the names and stuff, but
no, there's been a bunch of them.
Yeah, as a whole, I mean, the fights have just been more violent.
Yeah, I agree.
And so, like, they've all been good fights, and the fighters have come to fight every time. And I don't know if that is because it's you're kind of forced into it a little more. There's no distractions. It's you're just getting down and they're in the cage. So yeah, I'm trying to think of some. I know Gaethje put on a really good performance against Tony Ferguson. I didn't really watch the fight, but I saw the highlights, and stuff like that is incredible to see.
Yeah, it's amazing. I have to ask, because she is in the main event of your fight night, Amanda Nunes. You look at her record, you look at the people she's beaten. Like, it's hard to deny this woman. You're in Albuquerque, New Mexico, with a guy. And listen, I'm not here for people's Twitter rankings. I never will be. I don't care who they think is the GOAT. You can't deny Jon Jones and his resume. But you're going to be on the same card as Amanda Nunes. Is she the best female fighter of all time?
Right now, yeah. Yeah, she's proven some stuff, and she's beat some of the best. So you can't really argue that until someone comes along and beats her. And she's a nice person. I've met her a few times, and her and her girlfriend Nina, I think they're having a kid too.
Yeah.
So I mean, that'll probably add to it too. Of her, how she fights, as that's a big deal, having a kid, and you want to protect that and fight for that. So it adds a new meaning to what you're fighting for. But yeah, she's one of the GOATs.
Devin Clark bringing another label of violence into UFC 250. Like, now we got to fight for a future upcoming kid for Amanda Nunes. By the way, we think she's one of the best. So she's definitely bringing the violence. I gotta bring up your teammate very quickly, Jon Jones, going back and forth with Dana White. He wants to fight with Francis Ngannou. Just a two-part here, if you will. One, how would this fight between Jon and Francis Ngannou go? You're a guy who sees Jon in the gym. You know what Jon is like. There are a lot of people. Nobody's calling out Francis Ngannou right now, and I get that. But we've just talked about how great Jon is, and you and I have had conversations in the past about how good Jon is. How would you see that fight playing out?
Well, as a common sense type of guy, obviously Jon would win. On paper and everywhere else, Jon's the smarter fighter, and he's fought some physical specimens before. Ngannou is a physical specimen. Is he the best fighter? No. Does he hit hard? He brings the house when he hits? Absolutely. But a fighter like Jon that's so smart, I feel can navigate around that, definitely. So Ngannou would have to and this is what he will do, because this is what he does. He'll try to knock Jon out in the first round, and when he can't do that, it's going to be a sunken ship. He'll be caught in the deep waters and won't be able to get out of it, and that I'm certain of.
I'm not here to throw shade at the UFC, but with UFC Fight Island may or may not be happening, fighting in front of empty arenas, there is money being lost right now, because there's so many fighters who are unable to come over from other locations, other countries, and compete. And you talked about, UFC 250, missing those biggest name draws. You're on that card as well. So yeah. with all that being said, you can make a case for why Jon's going, listen, you don't know when Khabib's coming back. You don't know when Conor's coming back. Your Nate Diaz is, Stipe, DC. Look, I'm a guy. I'm ready to fight. Let's make this fight happen. Pay me what I'm worth. Do you believe the UFC has to pony up right now and just pay them what they want?
If that fight were to happen, I believe that's one of those super fights that deserves big money. A lot of people are going to watch that, and as far as losing money, I don't know. I don't know what the amounts are or nothing like that, but we're the only sport on right now.
Yeah.
So we're I don't know what's making up for what there, but how much we're losing or if we're gaining, I don't know. But I know we're the only sport on right now, and that's gotta offset a lot.
Yeah, let me clarify. I don't know that they're losing, but you missed that money coming in from the audience and the live gates and all that, and it's an unfortunate part of. Listen, I know if Dana could open the doors to the fans right now, he would. Like he's not messing around.
Definitely.
On that note, and we'll wrap up here in a couple minutes here, and thank you so much for your time. Are you comfortable, confident, happy with everything that's in place? I know I've talked to people on the ground there who are part of the Tyron Woodley, Gilbert Burns card this weekend. They're like, listen, it's test in the room. You're isolating yourself away from everybody. Like Vegas is really locking it down. Does that make you feel safe with everything moving forward?
Yeah, I suppose so. That's the best we can do. I think we get tested twice, and like you said, we're in quarantine after that, pretty much. So, and it's no more risk than going to Walmart to get your groceries or the grocery store. That's probably a lot more risk actually, is going to the grocery store than being around such a control setting. And that was my thought process too when I did accept the fights. Like, there's no way the UFC is going to allow us to get sick. They're going to do everything in their power to keep us safe and keep us tested, stuff like that. So I'm 100% confident everybody will be pretty safe. I mean, not all the fighters that have fought, we've had one test positive. So I think those are pretty good stats.
Yeah, absolutely. And so to make it sound like I'm not against Dana or the UFC, because look, I can tell you, no one was happier on my side of things than me personally to see this sport. I almost had like emotions in my house, like telling my family, like, look, if you guys are stuck with me, all I'm asking is give me Saturday night with the big TV. If you guys want to watch the fights, like my sport is back. And look, I've got a basketball tattoo. I grew up playing basketball. I watched the NBA. I love the NFL. Baseball kind of gets me through the summer, but nothing meant more to me than having you fighters come back ready to compete, put on these events. So, and furthermore, people mocking the UFC like John Oliver and Dana White goes, oh, by the way, that UFC, I'm taking that as a trademark. Like, he's just, every time people come for him, he just shoots them down, and then he does what he says he's going to do. So as a fighter for the UFC, do you have like any like, hell yeah, happiness, excitement that like Dana White's your president and of the promotion, and he's going out there and doing what he said he was going to do?
Absolutely. I love it. Of course, it's a dangerous situation, but that makes it all that more exciting. And we're fighters. We're gonna fight no matter what. That's how we make our money. And to be part of the only group of people doing this right now, fighters are the only ones competing in sports right now. Everybody else is shut down. We're the only Dana was the only one brave enough to say, "Hey, no, we're gonna keep rolling." And I'm proud to be part of that. Definitely. When I look back, when I'm old and telling my grandkids, like, yeah, the whole country was shut down. I was training for a fight and I went and fought. Looking that diversity or the adversity in the eyes and going for it. I think it's a beautiful thing, and a lot of people should be able to do that. And that goes along with not letting fear control you, and that fear is what controls a lot of people. And that leads to events that are right now. People are scared and there's fear. so they're acting out, and now we have a mess. And that's with the COVID and the recent events in Minneapolis and pretty much all of 2020. So
Yeah, like let's get rid of
big fear
2020.
fest. Yeah, and George acting though, and I don't blame them, but at some point you have to face that fear and live your life, and you can't live your life in the house in quarantine all the time. You gotta face the fear and get out of the house. Go to the damn playground, you know.
Absolutely. Well, you'll be in your playground, so to speak, next weekend, June 6th, UFC 250 against Alonzo Menifield. Before I let you go, I know you've already talked about it. As a parting message, what do you want the fans to know about this fight and you?
I'm a very violent person, and I'm going to be a very violent person in this fight. And after win, I'm going to preach peace and love, because that's what we need right now in America, and that's what I'm about outside of this sanctioned fight. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, Devin Clark, thank you very much. Best of luck now that you need luck in your fight against Alonzo Menifield, and hope we chop it up after your fight.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it.